Hey everyone, welcome to this definitive explainer on absolutely crushing the CELPIP exam. If you're looking to maximize your score, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're doing a deep dive into CELPIP vocabulary. But here's the secret that so many test takers miss. Mastering this exam isn't just about translating words from a dictionary. It requires you to fundamentally think like a Canadian. All right, let's dive right into this.
Here is our agenda for today. First, we'll look at the hidden challenge of the exam. Second, we'll run through an essential vocabulary blitz. Third, we'll cover community and daily life terms. And finally, we'll apply all of this to real test scenarios. Let's get started.
Section 1. The Hidden CELPIP Challenge. So, the very first thing you gotta wrap your head around is that the CELPIP is fundamentally different from generic English tests like the IELTS. It is deeply, deeply rooted in Canadian cultural, administrative, and legal context. Basically, if you don't know the context, you're gonna miss the point, even if your English grammar is 100% flawless. To show you what I mean, imagine you hear this quote on the listening test. "I was wondering if you might have a moment to check the noise issue." I mean, it looks like a super casual, gentle suggestion, right? But in Canadian culture, and specifically on the CELPIP, this polite indirectness, which we often call cushioning, actually translates to a serious formal complaint. If you select casual suggestion on a multiple-choice question, you get it wrong.
And that brings us right to the 4 core test traps. Trap 1, mixing up American or British words with Canadian ones. Trap 2, missing the legal weight behind institutional terms. Trap 3 is that polite indirectness we just talked about, that classic Canadian way where serious complaints are disguised as polite favors. And Trap 4, getting completely thrown off by localized acronyms and fast pronunciation.
When you put these side by side, the differences are pretty striking. If you're used to American English, you might naturally say studio apartment, restroom, or electricity bill. But in Canada, you really need to say bachelor apartment, washroom, and hydro. Using the US or UK terms during the speaking test can actually lower your score, and not recognizing the Canadian terms during the listening test will absolutely cause hesitation, and that eats up valuable time.
This brings us to a crucial point, understanding institutional hidden meanings. Take the acronym ROE, which stands for Record of Employment. Now, on a literal level, it just sounds like a resume, right? Like a record of where you've worked. But on the CLPI, if someone in a listening dialogue says they're waiting for an ROE, it has a major hidden meaning. It means they just lost their job and are dealing with the paperwork for unemployment benefits. See? Context is literally everything here.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, Essential Canadian Vocabulary.
Get your mental whiteboards ready, folks, because we are going to systematically break down the absolute highest yield words you will encounter on the test. First up is housing and rental, which is a massive topic on the CELPIP. Notice the term hydro. Even though it sounds like water, in Canada, it means your electricity bill. And keep a super close eye on the LTB, the Landlord and Tenant Board. This is a highly tested concept. If you get a reading or speaking prompt about a rent dispute, knowing that the LTB is the official mediator is going to instantly elevate your answer.
Next up, finance and banking. E-transfer is the standard everyday way to send money in Canada. You'll also frequently see TSFA, which is a tax-free savings account, and RRSP, a retirement plan. These pop up all the time in reading passages about personal finance. And definitely watch out for the NSF, which stands for non-sufficient funds. This is a classic trap. It shows up constantly in banking dispute scenarios where someone is complaining about being unfairly penalized by their bank.
Now, for the workplace category, remember how we talked about the ROE when someone loses their job? Well, that document is exactly what you use to apply for EI, or employment insurance. Another vital term is the T4 slip. That's your annual tax document. Understanding T4s and stat holidays, which are statutory paid holidays, is absolutely essential. You need these to accurately navigate workplace dialogues in both the listening and reading sections.
All right, Section 3, Community, Transit, and Daily Life.
These day-to-day Canadian experiences heavily populate the CLPIP prompts, especially when you're asked to give advice or express an opinion. Look at these municipal terms. A bylaw is a local city rule. The green bin is specifically for organic compost waste, but pays special attention to rec center and town hall meeting. These are ultra-high frequency settings for writing task 2. If you're asked to write an email to the mayor about a new city project, casually mentioning that you attended the recent town hall meeting at the local rec center makes your response sound incredibly authentic.
We also got to add a touch of cultural flavor here. A loonie is the Canadian $1 coin, and a toonie is the $2 coin.
A double-double is the classic Canadian coffee order, double cream, double sugar. These phonetic slang terms are beloved across Canada, but fair warning, they serve as brilliant audio traps on the CLP to confuse test takers who have never actually heard them spoken before.
For transit, we have terms like park and ride, which is where you park your car in the suburbs and take the train into the city. There's also the HOV lane, the high-occupancy vehicle lane for carpooling. This brilliantly illustrates a key strategy for you. Terms like park and ride and HOV lanes offer fantastic, logical arguments for speaking tasks, especially when you have to debate city planning or traffic solutions.
Honestly, you can't talk about Canada without talking about the weather. Watch out for a snow squall, which is a sudden, super intense blizzard. Also, pay close attention to the verb winterize. Winterizing a house or a car, preparing it for the deep freeze, is a highly common theme in everyday conversation tasks. If a listening prompt discusses pipes bursting, it's almost definitely because someone forgot to winterize.
Finally, let's look at education and healthcare. You really need to understand the typical Canadian journey here. If you're sick, you don't just go straight to the hospital. You go to a walk-in clinic. If it's serious, that doctor gives you a referral to see a specialist. Also, if you happen to get a listening passage set in Quebec, you might hear the term CEGEP, which is their unique pre-university college system. Just know what it is so it doesn't throw you off.
Let's move to Section 4, Real Test Scenarios Applied.
Now, for the absolute most important part of this explainer, let's pivot. We're going to transform all this vocabulary knowledge into test day triumphs. Here's a classic scenario for writing task 1, which often asks you to write a formal complaint email. The prompt is this: you are in a dispute with your landlord over rising electricity bills due to a broken heater. Think back to our vocabulary blitz. Which specific words would you use here to really impress the grader? Check out this high-scoring response snippet. Notice what they did? Instead of just saying electricity, the writer says hydro. They reference the official tenancy agreement, and they warn the landlord that delays might result in NSF fees if those high bills bounce from their bank account. This strategic use of vocabulary proves a deep, nuanced, contextual understanding to the grader. And guys, that is exactly how you get top marks.
Let's look at one more. Here's speaking task 5, where you have to logically defend an option and persuade someone. The prompt asks, should the city build a community garden or a park and ride facility on a vacant lot? This is exactly where your localized context becomes your greatest weapon.
Here is the perfect problem-solving logic chain for this. Step 1. Mildly acknowledge the opposing view. Step 2. Pivot to the broader community impact. And Step 3. Deploy your transit and weather vocabulary to win. Think about it. The undeniable reality of the freezing Canadian winter makes the park and ride argument significantly stronger than the community garden, right?
And boom, here is that strategy in action. You tell the grader, by utilizing the transit pass, we can reduce highway congestion and leverage HOV lanes. Then you drop the hammer. Furthermore, a community garden remains unused for half the year due to harsh Canadian winters, whereas a transit hub operates year-round. It is just perfect logic, flawless vocabulary, and total cultural competence. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Vocabulary on the CLPIP is not just about a direct translation from a dictionary. It is entirely about cultural navigation. Knowing the words is great, but knowing exactly how they fit into the everyday realities of Canadian life is how you secure that top score. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge. Look back at the 4 core traps we discussed earlier. Which Canadian hidden trap are you going to actively conquer on your very next practice test? Keep these strategies in mind, start applying these terms in your writing and speaking immediately, and I promise you are going to see the results. Happy studying!